Chapter 1956. If it was a head-on clash, they would not be afraid. The key was that the space-time laws were too mysterious. They were very useful in trapping the enemy. With the space-time laws trapping the enemy, Lu Ming would be the main attacker. When they worked together, their lethality was shocking. At this moment, a few more people came from afar. Their bodies were surrounded by the river of laws. More quasi-emperors came from the temporal divine island. They gathered together with the previous 3 quasi-emperors. A powerful aura pressed down on Lu Ming. A great battle was about to break out. Just at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky. This figure was enveloped by a mysterious energy. That area was completely distorted. It was as though space-time was changing. One could only vaguely see that it was a black-robed old man. When the quasi-emperors of the temporal divine island saw this old man, they all bowed and said, "Greetings, sacred master. Greetings, sacred master." The expressions of the other people of the temporal divine island changed drastically as they bowed. "Sacred master?" Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. It seemed like this sacred master had a very high status. Even the quasi-emperors of the temporal divine island were respectful to him. The sacred master nodded slightly. Then, he looked at Lu Ming and revealed a kind smile. Then, he looked at the other quasi-emperors and said, "Everyone is a powerful expert. If we fight here, it will cause great damage to the temporal divine island. Can you give this old man some face and stop the battle temporarily?" Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not say anything. The quasi-emperors of the other forces looked at him with flickering eyes. However, they did not say anything. Now that Lu Ming and Dandan had increased their combat strength, they were not confident in winning even though they had the advantage in numbers. If the people of the temporal divine island withdrew, they would be even less confident. Reporting to the sacred master, this person killed several elders of the temporal divine island. "We cannot let him go." Xian Chuan was still unwilling to give up. He reported to the sacred master, wanting to borrow the strength of the temporal divine island to kill Lu Ming. "Are you teaching me how to do things?" The sacred master looked at Xian Chuan and his voice turned cold. Xian Chuan's expression changed drastically. He immediately knelt down and shouted with a pale face, "I dare not. I dare not. Please forgive me, sacred master." The sacred master ignored Xian Chuan. He continued to look at Lu Ming and the others. "If you all stop the battle, this old man." This old man. The sage sovereign's words stunned the people of the 10,000 Seas realm. These experts. In the 10,000 Seas realm, many people knew that the 10,000 Seas realm was connected to the other 8 realms. However, only saint emperors could come and go. It was said that the world beyond the heavens was vast and boundless. When martial arts were developed to the extreme, there were even immortal existences. However, all of this was just a legend. No one had ever verified it. Now, the sage master actually said that these people came from beyond the heavens. Maybe it was true. Otherwise, why would so many strong cultivators suddenly appear on the time divine island? Beyond the heavens, beyond the heavens. So Lu Ming is from beyond the heavens. Only beyond the heavens can give birth to a heaven's pride like Lu Ming. While Nguyen Tianjiao was shocked, various thoughts flashed through his mind. The people of the 9 nations of the sea and the profound spirit nation were also dumbfounded. "Lu Ming, for the sake of the holy teacher, I'll spare your life today," said a giant wolf from the Skywolf Pagoda. "Spare my life? Ha ha, come, let's continue fighting. Let's see if you can take my life." Lu Ming's eyes emitted killing intent as he stared intently at the Heavenly Wolf Pagoda's giant wolf. This caused the huge wolf from the Heavenly Wolf Pagoda to have an unsightly expression. He was only trying to win with words. If they really fought, they didn't have the confidence to win. Saint Sovereign smiled bitterly and said, "Little brother, why don't we drop the matter for now? After you go to the divine mountain of time and leave the divine island of time, you can fight however you want. I won't interfere. Then let's give the holy teacher some face and spare their lives first." Lu Ming smiled faintly. If they really fought, although he wasn't afraid, if the people from the divine island of time were added into the mix, he probably wouldn't have the upper hand. More importantly, the holy teacher gave him an unfathomable feeling. The expressions of the heavenly wolf pagoda's giant wolf and the others were ugly, but they didn't refute. All right, thank you for giving me face, little brother. The people of the 10,000 Seas realm will stay here for the time being. No one is allowed to attack. Those who violate this rule will be killed without mercy, the holy teacher said coldly. The people from the profound spirit nation had ugly expressions, but they didn't dare to refute the holy teacher's words. So many of their people had died, so they could only admit that they were unlucky. Friends from beyond the heavens, if you want to explore the divine mountain of time, then follow me. The holy teacher's voice spread in all directions. After saying that, he flew towards the depths of the divine island of time. Lu Ming smiled and followed the holy teacher. The giant wolf from the Sky Wolf Pagoda, the quasi-emperors of the Golden Crow race, and the Wind race followed behind with gloomy faces. In the sky, figures streaked across the void. They were all experts from the outside world. They followed the holy teacher to the divine island of time. So many people. The people from the 10,000 Seas realm were shocked. There were so many people from beyond the heavens, and each of them was a terrifying expert. Not long after, they arrived at the center of the divine island of time. In front of them was a mountain that towered into the clouds. This mountain looked dead silent. At a glance, there were only bare rocks. Everyone's eyes narrowed. They saw withered bones in different parts of the mountain. They were almost decaying. Why were there so many withered bones on this mountain? Everyone stopped in their tracks, somewhat bewildered. Everyone, this is the divine mountain of time. The entire mountain is dead silent, and there are only a few plants. The holy teacher introduced. Everyone observed carefully. Indeed, there were some plants on the mountain. They were sparse and very rare. These plants have the power of time. If a cultivator consumes them, their lifespan will increase. The holy teacher continued. What? It can increase one's lifespan? Someone exclaimed. His eyes were burning with passion. A martial emperor expert's lifespan was endless. Other than facing the great calamity of the world, they did not need to worry about their lifespan. However, those below the martial emperor realm had limited lifespan. A sage realm expert could live for more than 100,000 years. However, they could not live for more than 200,000 years. It was the same for boundary emperors. They were also within this range. This time, there were many ancient boundary emperors who came in. They were very old, and many of them were about to reach the end of their lifespan. Plants that could increase their lifespan were a fatal temptation to them. Also, there is a small tree at the peak of the divine mountain of time. That is the divine tree of time. If a cultivator consumes it, their lifespan will be doubled, the holy teacher added. Doubled lifespan. This time, the majority of the people revealed fiery greed. What did it mean to double one's lifespan? Some boundary emperors were about to reach the end of their lifespan. However, if their lifespan was doubled, they might be able to step into the martial emperor realm and obtain immortality. They would have an endless lifespan. Chapter 1957. That's mine. It's mine. Immediately, some people rushed towards the divine light sacred mountain. However, the few people who rushed at the front suddenly screamed in pain. A shocking scene appeared. The few people at the front stopped in the air and screamed in horror. Their old and shriveled bodies became even more shriveled. Their essence seemed to have been devoured in an instant. Then, their hair fell off, their clothes decayed, and their bodies seemed to have turned into skeletons. There was no aura on their bodies. Some people at the back had a drastic change of expression and retreated frantically. However, after retreating, each of them seemed to have aged a lot. In just a few breaths, each of them seemed to have aged 10,000 years. Looking at the front, the few people who flew at the front had turned into skeletons. What's going on? What's going on? My lifespan is about to run out. An old man whose hair was about to fall off roared. I haven't finished speaking yet. You guys are too anxious. The divine mountain of time is filled with the power of time. Any living being who goes up will be deprived of time. In the divine mountain of time, time passes faster. The The sage master said indifferently. Time is passing faster. Damn it. Those who rushed forward roared. This time, they suffered a great loss. Those who were slower and did not go forward secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, they were a step slower. Otherwise, the consequences would be serious. Lu Ming, Bubbles, and some other young people did not go forward just now. They were still young. Things like lifespan were not attractive to them. Chirp chirp. On Lu Ming's shoulder, Bubbles chirped, staring at the small tree on the divine mountain of time. Bubbles, is that little tree of great use to you? Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubbles. Yes, chirp chirp. Bubbles nodded repeatedly. Lu Ming understood. Bubbles was a spacetime spirit mouse, and that small tree had the power of time. It was not surprising that it was useful to Bubbles. But how could he get it? Lu Ming thought secretly. Can't we go up the divine mountain of time? Someone asked in a deep voice. If he couldn't go up, then what was the point of coming here? It was better to explore other ruins as soon as possible. It's not that we can't go up at all. Follow me. After the sacred master finished speaking, he flew towards the side of the sacred mountain of time. Not long after, the sage master stopped. He pointed at the divine mountain of time and said, "There is a canyon here. Every 3 months, the power of time in this canyon will drop to the lowest. At that time, you can pass through this canyon, and at the end of this canyon, there is an altar. As long as that altar is broken, the power of time in the entire sacred mountain of time will be greatly weakened. At that time, there will be a chance to set foot on the mountain peak and obtain the sacred tree of time. Then why don't you people from the Time Shrine Island go up?" Someone raised a question and looked at the sage master with doubt. The others were the same. Some of them had a cold glint in their eyes. If there was any falsehood in the Saint Sovereign's words, or if there was some conspiracy, then they would be in danger. Many boundary emperors and saints had lived for a long time and were very calculative. Naturally, they would not easily trust the sage master. Because we are not strong enough. The sage master replied. Many people's eyes flashed. They could not refute the sage master's words. The cultivation level of the infinite seas realm was naturally incomparable to that of the Yuanlu. The difference was too great. The strongest people on the Time Shrine Island were boundary emperors. Moreover, there were not many of them. It was normal that they could not do it. How much longer will it take for the power of time in this canyon to weaken? Someone asked. There is still half a month. The sage master said. All right, then I will wait here. Someone sat cross-legged. Some people did the same. They sat cross-legged and waited quietly. Some people also looked around the divine light shrine mountain. Lu Ming and Bubbles also wandered around. Bang! Suddenly, someone stepped forward and walked toward the divine mountain of time. It immediately attracted the attention of many people. It seemed that someone could not hold back and wanted to try it himself. However, that person was very cautious. He walked step by step very slowly. When he stepped into a certain range, his expression changed as if he was enveloped by a terrifying force. That person was a boundary emperor. His body was surrounded by a river of laws. Sacred power enveloped his entire body as he tried his best to resist the power of time in the outside world. Then, step by step, he walked toward the nearest plant. Many people's eyes lit up. The power of time in the divine mountain of time was stronger the closer one was to the peak of the mountain. It was not completely impossible to resist the power of time in the periphery. As long as one could resist the power of time, one would be able to obtain some plants. The plants here could increase one's lifespan and were invaluable. Immediately, many people stepped forward and slowly walked toward the divine mountain of time. However, not long after, someone shouted that he could not hold on anymore. That person's skin was slowly drying up. That person was so frightened that his expression changed drastically and he quickly retreated. The person who tried it first did not manage to reach the nearest plant. He could not resist the erosion of the power of time and retreated in defeat. Following that, the others did the same. Even with their emperor weapons, they could not resist the power of time. One by one, they retreated. None of them obtained a plant. Big brother Lu Ming, I want to try. Maybe I can use the power of time to cultivate. Chirp chirp. At that moment, Bubbles spoke. All right, let's go together. Lu Ming nodded. He also wanted to see how strong the power of time in the divine mountain of time was. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming stepped forward and walked toward the divine mountain of time. Many people looked at Lu Ming. They also wanted to see how far the son of chaos could go. Lu Ming walked forward step by step. When he stepped into a certain area, a mysterious power acted on his body. That was the power of time. It was very similar to the power on Bubbles' body. The power of time was extremely terrifying. It was as if it wanted to seep into Lu Ming's body and deprive Lu Ming of his time and lifespan. Boom! Lu Ming unleashed his aura. Sacred power surrounded his body and the law of chaos spread out, blocking the power of time in the outside world. The power of time corresponded to the power of time. It was only an extremely powerful law of kings. It could not be compared to Bubbles' spacetime law, and naturally, it could not be compared to the law of chaos. Therefore, when the law of chaos appeared, the power of time in the outside world was blocked. Lu Ming continued to step forward, step by step, toward a plant. He did not walk very fast, but step by step, he walked with determination. The deeper he went, the stronger the power of time. However, Lu Ming still blocked it in the end. Bubbles sat on Lu Ming's shoulder and seemed to be seriously sensing the power of time in the outside world. Soon, Lu Ming approached the first plant. As expected of the son of chaos. He can control the law of chaos and even block the power of time. Chapter 1958. Someone exclaimed. The distance that Lu Ming had crossed was even further than the person who had walked the furthest before. The Skywolf Pagoda's giant wolf, the Golden Crow Race Quasi-Emperor, and the others snorted coldly, somewhat displeased. Soon, Lu Ming arrived in front of the nearest plant. This was a stalk of purple grass with a purple flower growing from it. It emitted a strange power. Lu Ming was secretly amazed. Then, he uprooted the purple flower and put it into the mountain river diagram. Many old men with snow-white hair stared at Lu Ming with fiery eyes. Treasures that could increase one's lifespan were rare. Every time they appeared, they would be sold for a sky-high price. Lu Ming continued forward and walked towards another plant. Not long after, Lu Ming plucked 6 plants. Almost all the plants in the periphery were plucked by Lu Ming. Only by continuing to go deeper could he pick more plants. Lu Ming continued to walk, but as he went deeper and deeper, the power of time became stronger and stronger. The law of primal chaos that filled his body also trembled violently. Although the law of primal chaos was of a higher level, Lu Ming's cultivation was still low. Although the quality was higher, the quantity was not enough. When the power of time exceeded a certain range, the law of primal chaos still could not resist it. At this moment, a transparent bubble enveloped Lu Ming. Immediately, Lu Ming felt the power of time in the outside world lighten. It was Bubble who had made a move. Her law of spacetime contained time and space. No law could compare to her resistance to the power of time. Lu Ming felt the pressure lessen and immediately quickened his pace. Soon, he was almost halfway up the mountain. The law of spacetime, good, good. When the Sage Master saw this scene, his eyes emitted a dazzling light and a deep desire. Of course, no one saw the look in the Sage Master's eyes. A few hours later, Lu Ming had plucked more than 10 plants. But halfway up the mountain, he could no longer continue. Even with the help of Bubble's law of spacetime, he could no longer move forward. Ahead of them, the power of time was too terrifying. If they continued forward, they would definitely not be able to withstand it. Helpless, they could only stop there. Lu Ming simply sat down cross-legged, borrowing the power of time to temper his laws of primal chaos. As for Bubble, she was also carefully sensing the power of time in the outside world. Lu Ming, why aren't you coming out? Someone stared at Lu Ming, hoping that Lu Ming would come out and buy some longevity plants from Lu Ming. He seems to be cultivating. Let's wait a little longer. He'll come out sooner or later. Many people gathered around Lu Ming. They wanted to wait for Lu Ming to come out so that they could trade with him. After more than 10 days, Lu Ming and Bubbles finally couldn't hold on any longer. They got up and left the sacred mountain of time. As soon as he retreated, Lu Ming was surrounded by a group of old men. Lu Ming, how much are the plants in the sacred mountain of time? Sell me a few, the price is negotiable. I also want a few, just name your price. The group of old men spoke one after another, their eyes burning. I'm not selling. Lu Ming waved his hand. There were very few treasures that could increase one's lifespan. He wanted to keep them so that when he returned to the divine wilderness in the future, many people would be able to use them. His parents and some others were not talented enough, so it was impossible for them to cultivate to the martial emperor realm. One day, their lifespan would be exhausted and these plants would be useful. Not selling. Immediately, some old men became anxious and said, Lu Ming, you're young and talented. It's a certainty that you'll break through to the martial emperor realm in the future. There's no use in keeping these plants that can increase one's lifespan. That's right, I want 2. How about selling 2 to me? I want 1. These old men looked at Lu Ming with burning eyes. I also need them for myself, so seniors, I'm sorry, please make way. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, Humph, Lu Ming, you have no use for them, yet you refuse to sell them to these seniors. You should be punished. That's right. There are so many plants, yet you want to monopolize them all. Aren't you going overboard? Some of the seniors here are nearing the end of their lifespan. Are you going to leave them to die? Not far away, the Heavenly Wolf Pagoda's huge wolf, the Wind Race Quasi-Emperor, the Golden Crow Race Quasi-Emperor, and the others all sneered. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. These people were clearly trying to sow discord. Indeed, some of the old men's eyes flickered with cold light as they said, Lu Ming, you should give up some. Monopolizing them is too much. There are so many of us here. If we use force, I'm afraid you won't be able to protect those plant. Seeing this scene, the Heavenly Wolf Pagoda's huge wolf, the Wind Race Quasi-Emperor, and the others all revealed cold smiles. You're going to fight if I'm not selling? Lu Ming's voice turned cold, and the atmosphere turned tense. Everyone, time is almost up. If you want to fight, wait until you leave the time-sacred island. The sacred master spoke as he stepped forward and arrived beside Lu Ming. At the same time, the time-sacred island's experts also arrived beside Lu Ming, vaguely intending to protect Lu Ming. This surprised Lu Ming. This sacred master seemed to not want anything to happen to him. The old men's expressions also turned unsightly. Lu Ming and Bubbles working together was already extremely difficult to deal with. Now that the people of the time-sacred island had joined in, even if they fought, they were not confident. Little brother Lu Ming, I hope that you can sell some plants to me after we leave. Some of the old men did not choose to fight in the end and withdrew from the encirclement. Subsequently, others withdrew as well. In the end, the remaining people knew that they could not do anything and could only helplessly walk to the side. This made the Heavenly Wolf Pagoda's huge wolf, the Wind Race Quasi-Emperor, and the others' expressions turn ugly. They were originally hoping that Lu Ming would clash with those old men. Lu Ming glanced coldly at the Heavenly Wolf Pagoda's huge wolf, the Wind Race Quasi-Emperor, and the others. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. Time's up. We can set off now. The sacred master's eyes lit up as he said. However, for a moment, no one stepped forward. They all hoped that someone else would take the lead. The sacred master naturally knew that everyone was worried. With a wave of his hand, some of the Light God Island's quasi-emperors immediately flew up and rushed into the canyon. Those people were extremely fast. After rushing into the canyon, they were indeed fine. Only then did everyone relax and rush into the canyon. Lu Ming also rushed into the canyon with the crowd. The power of time has indeed weakened by many times. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Everyone was very fast and soon passed through half of the canyon. However, after passing through half of the canyon, everyone's speed finally slowed down. Because from here onwards, the power of time gradually became stronger. Everyone continued forward. After advancing for a while, some of the weaker cultivators finally could not resist and retreated from the canyon. However, the power of time here was nothing to Lu Ming and Bubbles. They quickly passed through and slowly approached the end of the canyon. Chapter 1959. This is the altar. There are 3 altars in the entire sacred mountain of time. As long as one of them is destroyed, the power of time in the sacred mountain of time will be greatly weakened. If all 3 are destroyed, the sacred mountain of time will be free to pass through. The sacred sovereign said with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Bang! Bang! Everyone continued to move forward. In the end, including Lu Ming and Bubbles, more than 10 people arrived in front of the altar. The others couldn't resist and retreated. I'll destroy it. A burly man held a giant axe and swung it at the altar. Boom! The giant axe struck the altar, causing it to shake violently. However, a terrifying power of time rushed out and rushed into the burly man's body. The burly man's body instantly shriveled, and some white hair appeared on his head of black hair. Damn it, my lifespan! The burly man roared. In that instant, he seemed to have been deprived of tens of thousands of years of his lifespan. This made him furious. This altar has such a strong power of time. How do we break it? Someone glared at the sacred sovereign. If you want to get it, you have to pay a price. As long as you attack it for a while, you will be able to destroy the altar, the sacred sovereign said. The rest of the people fell silent. If I retreat, my lifespan will be deprived. Even if I get a treasure that can increase my lifespan, what's the use? The loss outweighs the gain. Someone shook his head and retreated. The rest of the people also shook their heads. Boom! At this moment, Lu Ming made his move. Under the control of Bubbles' spacetime law, he threw a punch at the altar. The altar rumbled violently and shook non-stop. A powerful power of time rushed towards Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming had the primal chaos law and Bubbles' spacetime law, so he successfully blocked the power of time. He blocked it. The eyes of the sacred sovereign and the others lit up. Boom! Boom! Afterward, Lu Ming's fists bombarded the altar continuously. Streaks of terrifying fist force bombarded the altar. The altar kept shaking, and a strong power of time rushed out. If it was an ordinary boundary emperor, they definitely wouldn't be able to block it and would turn into bones under the power of time. However, they were all blocked by Lu Ming and Bubbles. Catcher! When Lu Ming punched out dozens of times, the altar issued a cracking sound. The Sage Master's eyes shone brightly. After a few more punches, there was a resounding boom, and the altar burst apart, sending rubble flying everywhere. At this moment, the power of time in the entire mountain of time was rapidly weakening. The power of time has weakened. Those plants are mine. Many people could no longer hold back and rushed towards the divine mountain of time, rushing towards those plants. The power of time in the divine mountain of time had weakened, and many people were able to rush out for a long distance. Lu Ming and Bubble rushed to the top of the canyon. The others did the same, rushing to the top of the canyon one by one. Lu Ming and the other 2 altars in the other 2 directions, destroy them together. The Sage Master's eyes emitted a dazzling light as he stared at Lu Ming. We'll talk about it later. Lu Ming's figure flickered as he rushed towards the summit of the sacred mountain. Damn it! The Sage Master roared in his heart. He then shouted, Lu Ming, the other 2 altars are not destroyed. You can't reach the top of the mountain. Destroy the other 2 altars first. However, Lu Ming couldn't be bothered with the Sage Master. He vaguely felt that the Sage Master had an ulterior motive for asking them to destroy the altars. It was very likely that it would be disadvantageous to them. Destroying one altar was enough. Why would Lu Ming be so stupid as to destroy the other 2 altars? Damn it, go and destroy the other 2 altars. The Sage Master gave an order to the experts of the divine island of time. Those people's expressions changed, but they had no choice but to obey the Sage Master's order. They rushed towards the other 2 altars. At this moment, Lu Ming was approaching the top of the mountain. He plucked the plants he encountered along the way. Oh no, Lu Ming is about to reach the top of the mountain. That divine tree of time is mine. Stop him. Immediately, one by one, the quasi-emperors rushed towards the top of the mountain. However, although the power of time on the divine mountain of time was greatly weakened, it was still very strong near the top of the mountain. The Quasi-Emperor's speed became slower and slower. They couldn't keep up with Lu Ming's speed at all. In the end, they couldn't even move an inch because the power of time had exceeded their limits. We will stop him from below. Even if he obtains the divine tree of time, he will still come down. That's right, we will wait for him below. Several voices sounded in succession. They were the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors, Zhen Du of the Golden Crow tribe, and the others. They also stopped near the top of the mountain. They had reached their limits. These people deserve to be killed. Lu Ming's cold gaze swept across the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors and the others. Then, he sent a voice transmission to Bubbles. Then, Lu Ming's figure suddenly stopped. Then, he suddenly turned around and pounced towards the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors and the others. His body was shrouded in the power of time and space. His speed was extremely astonishing. Moreover, he was moving from top to bottom at an even faster speed. In an instant, Lu Ming's figure appeared beside the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors. Time acceleration, Bubbles exclaimed. A power of the laws of time and space shrouded the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors. There was already a terrifying power of time here. In addition to Bubbles' time acceleration, the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors suddenly felt that their lifespan was being stripped away and their essence was rapidly depleting. Kill. A battle sword appeared in Lu Ming's hand and he charged towards the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors. Lu Ming, if you dare to kill me, the Feng tribe is an ancient tribe, the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors roared. However, in the next moment, the battle sword slashed down and his body was split into two. This person was really ridiculous. Previously, he had targeted Lu Ming and wanted to kill Lu Ming. Now that he was facing Lu Ming's counterattack, he used the Feng tribe to threaten Lu Ming. Swoosh! After Lu Ming killed the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors, he did not stop and charged towards another giant wolf of the Sky Wolf Pagoda. He was exactly the same as the Feng tribe Quasi-Emperors. Here, they needed to use all their strength to resist the power of time. How could they be a match for Lu Ming and Bubbles? They could not fight back at all and were killed by Lu Ming's sword one by one. As for their storage rings, Lu Ming naturally put them away. Not good, retreat. The expressions of the remaining giant wolf, the Golden Crow tribe Quasi-Emperors, the Purple Extreme Sect Quasi-Emperors, and the others changed drastically. They were simply scared out of their wits and frantically rushed down the sacred mountain of time. However, Lu Ming was even faster. His figure flashed and he appeared before the Golden Crow tribe Quasi-Emperors. No. The Golden Crow tribe Quasi-Emperors roared. However, when the battle sword descended, this person was also killed. Following that, Lu Ming charged towards the Purple Extreme Sect Quasi-Emperors and killed them. After killing several people in a row, Xiao Chen ended up wasting time. At this moment, another giant wolf had already rushed down the sacred mountain of time. Without the power of time, it would not be that easy to kill it. That giant wolf fled down the sacred mountain of time. It was so frightened that its entire body trembled. It did not dare to stay any longer. With a roar, it actually soared into the sky and left this place. Chapter 1960. The other Quasi-Emperors looked at Lu Ming in fear. Lu Ming was too ruthless. His thunderous attack killed 4 Quasi-Emperors in an instant, sending chills down their spines. This was the divine mountain of time. They were no match for Lu Ming at all. Some of them did not even dare to move forward and retreated from the divine mountain of time. Boom! Boom! On the other side, the Quasi-Emperors of the divine mountain of time were attacking the other 2 ancient altars. However, they could not block the power of time coming from the altars. Several Quasi-Emperors of the divine mountain of time died to the power of time. The others retreated one after another, not daring to continue attacking. Damn it! The sacred master roared in his heart. Cold killing intent flickered in his eyes. Lu Ming actually did not listen to him and went to destroy the other 2 altars. If not for special reasons that prevented him from making a move, he would have made a move himself. Lu Ming and Bubbles kept going up, getting closer and closer to the top of the mountain. Lu Ming could already clearly see the divine tree of time at the top of the mountain. The divine tree of time was only 1 meter tall. Its emerald green leaves gave off a sparkling light. 2 milky white fruits hung on its branches. I want it. I want it. Chirp, chirp. Bubbles stared at the small tree. Her eyes lit up, and she almost drooled. However, the closer they got to the top of the mountain, the stronger the power of time. When they got close to the small tree, Lu Ming and Bubbles both felt a terrifying pressure. Lu Ming felt that the essence in his body was slowly draining away. His smooth skin also slowly became dry and wrinkled. This proved that his lifespan was slowly decreasing. The small tree was less than 100 meters away from them. Continue. Lu Ming shouted. His primal chaos law was circulated to the extreme, overlapping with Bubble's spacetime law to resist the power of time together. At the same time, Lu Ming took out the Taiji disk array. A Taiji diagram formed above the two's heads. Then, the Great Pill derivation furnace also appeared. It floated above the two's heads and scattered a light screen. With this, the pressure on them was greatly reduced. They continued forward, getting closer and closer to the small tree. 90 meters, 80 meters, 70 meters. Soon, he was only 50 meters away from the tree. The power of time here was shockingly strong. If they hadn't destroyed one of the altars, they definitely wouldn't have been able to reach here. You can't reach the peak, you can't reach the peak, the Sage Master muttered. He really hoped that Lu Ming wouldn't be able to reach the top of the mountain. In that case, Lu Ming would have to come down and destroy one of the other two altars. Only then would Lu Ming be able to obtain the God Tree of Time. But he was destined to be disappointed. Bubble spat out a crystal that emitted terrifying space-time fluctuations, resisting the power of time. They continued forward. 40 meters, 30 meters, they continued to approach the Tree of Time. Finally, they arrived at the Tree of Time. Fruit. Bubble's eyes lit up as it swallowed one of the milky white fruits with a look of enjoyment on its face. Then, Bubble grabbed the small tree with both hands, pulled it out, and swallowed it. Damn it! Seeing Lu Ming and the others uprooting the divine Tree of Time, the Sage Master's face turned gloomy. Let's go. Lu Ming whispered and rushed down the mountain with Bubble. It was difficult to go up the mountain, but it was very easy to go down the mountain. Lu Ming's speed was like lightning, and he soon rushed halfway up the mountain. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of Lu Ming. It was the Sage Master. Lu Ming, now that you have obtained the divine Tree of Time, go and destroy the other two altars, the Sage Master said. Since you have already obtained the divine Tree of Time, why do you still want to destroy the other two altars? Isn't it unnecessary? Lu Ming asked. The Sage Master's face was gloomy as he said, destroying those two altars is useful to me. If you help me, I will definitely reward you greatly. No need. I will leave this world soon. I am not interested in your reward. Get out of the way, Lu Ming said loudly, wanting to go around the Sage Master and leave this place. Today, you have to agree even if you don't want to. Attack, the Sage Master shouted. At the same time, he took the initiative to attack. His body actually twisted violently and turned into a battle sword, slashing at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. This was the first time he had seen such a divine ability. Get lost. Lu Ming shouted and threw a punch. A phantom of the prison-suppressing monument appeared and suppressed the Sage Master. Boom. The Sage Master was sent flying. He shouted angrily, "Damn the prison-suppressing monument." At this moment, Lu Ming felt a terrifying force rushing into his mind and attacking his soul, causing his soul to tremble violently. Soul attack. This Sage Master is not a physical body. Lu Ming's heart trembled. From the move just now, Lu Ming discovered that the Sage Master was not a physical body, but a spiritual body. No wonder his body could transform into a battle sword to attack. However, it was strange that a spiritual body would not dissipate after such a long time. Moreover, the Sage Master seemed to be very afraid of his prison-suppressing monument. In Lu Ming's impression, only some demonic creatures and the three-eyed divine race would be afraid of the prison-suppressing monument. Could it be that the Sage Master was a demonic creature or an evil spirit? He increasingly felt that the Sage Master did not have good intentions when he asked him to destroy the remaining two altars. Swish, swish. At this moment, the other quasi-emperors of the Time God Island also arrived and attacked Lu Ming. However, when Bubble pressed his hands, the void seemed to be frozen. The bodies of the Time God Island's experts stiffened. Lu Ming rushed past them and rushed down the mountain. Everyone, Lu Ming has obtained the divine tree of time. Once he consumes it, his lifespan will double and even have the effect of breaking through the bottleneck. Are you going to let him get it just like that? The Sage Master roared, his voice spreading throughout the place. Many of the quasi-emperors who came from outside stared at Lu Ming with fiery eyes. Lu Ming, stop first. Let's make a deal. One by one, the quasi-emperors rushed towards Lu Ming. Powerful auras burst out, forming a terrifying pressure. There were dozens of quasi-emperors. When they joined forces, it was too terrifying. Even if Lu Ming and Bubble joined forces, they would definitely not be a match for them. Moreover, the other party's sacred energy was densely packed in the void. Even Bubble's spacetime ability could not pass through. Lu Ming, stay here and destroy the other two altars. Behind them, the Sage Master led the people of the Time God Island to attack. Don't even think about it. Lu Ming stomped heavily on the ground, causing the ground to rumble. At the same time, Lu Ming's body soared into the sky. Bubble, use the spacetime tunnel. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubble. Bubble immediately opened the spacetime tunnel and Lu Ming rushed over. Not good, stop him. The Sage Master roared. He and the experts of the Time God Island attacked the spacetime tunnel with all their might. At the same time, the quasi-emperors who came from outside also launched their attacks at Lu Ming. Dozens of terrifying attacks crushed through, causing the space to tremble violently. Ferocious cracks appeared. Chapter 1961. The spacetime tunnel exploded and Lu Ming and Bubbles were blasted out. However, Lu Ming and Bubbles managed to escape through the spacetime tunnel and escaped from the encirclement of the quasi-emperors. Let's go. Lu Ming and Bubbles sped into the distance. He planned to go to the 9 nations of the sea to take Wan Tianjiao and the others away. Damn it, damn it. None of you can leave. None of you can leave. Seeing that Lu Ming was about to leave, the Sage Master went crazy and screamed crazily. Boom. As the Sage Master screamed, the sacred mountain of time rumbled violently and shook violently. Break, break, break. The Sage Master roared and his body emitted endless black light. The sacred mountain of time continued to emit explosive sounds as it continued to explode. Gravel flew everywhere. Then, the entire sacred mountain of time cracked open from the middle. Clang, clang. Everyone could hear the sound of iron chains colliding coming from the sacred mountain of time. That is, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly narrowed. Because he saw a huge and majestic figure in the crack of the sacred mountain of time. This figure was in the shape of a human, but it was incomparably huge. It was shrouded in a layer of black light and its appearance couldn't be seen clearly. His limbs and neck were chained by a huge iron chain. At this moment, the Sage Master turned into a ray of black light and entered the huge black figure. Break. The black figure roared and its voice was actually the same as the Sage Master's. Clang. Clang. The iron chains shook and the sacred mountain of time shook violently. Even the entire sacred island of time shook violently. A terrifying power of time rushed out from the huge black figure and spread in all directions. Ah! Help! Some of the absolute saints were hit by the power of time and let out miserable screams. In the next moment, their bodies shriveled and turned into skeletons. Even some of the quasi-emperors were the same. Not good, run, run. The remaining quasi-emperors' faces changed drastically and they fled frantically. Die, all of you must die. That gigantic shadow roared as it struggled violently. An even stronger power of time gushed out like a tidal wave. No, some quasi-emperors were struck by the power of time. They let out roars of discontent and turned into withered bones. Lu Ming and Bubbles raised their speed to the maximum and rushed towards Wan Tianjiao and the others. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly realized many things. He finally understood why the Sacred Master wanted him to destroy those altars. The reason for that was because the Sacred Master was the enormous figure in the sacred mountain of time. He was the sole energy that had been split off from that enormous figure. It was obvious that the enormous figure was sealed here. As for the 3 altars, they were the key to sealing it. The sage sovereign wanted Lu Ming to destroy the 3 altars in order to release him. As Lu Ming had destroyed one of the altars, the power of the seal had weakened. That was why the other party was able to destroy the divine mountain and reveal itself. However, there were still 2 altars, and the other party might not be able to come out. At this moment, Lu Ming secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he didn't destroy the 2 altars. Otherwise, if that giant figure appeared, they would all be in danger. The Sacred Master really had a good plan. Legend had it that the Divine Light Island was built by the Sacred Master. Every 3 years, he would recruit a group of powerful sky prides to enter the Divine Light Island to cultivate. Lu Ming suspected that the Sacred Master had built the Divine Light Island, gathered the sky prides, and nurtured them. His goal was to wait for them to become strong enough to destroy the altars. However, ordinary boundary emperors wouldn't be able to do that. This time, Lu Ming and the others had come to help the Sacred Master. Boom! Boom! The fluctuations from the sacred mountain of time became more and more intense. The terrifying power of time continued to burst out and spread in all directions, covering a wider area. If this continued, the entire Divine Light Island would probably be enveloped. Bubbles, use the space-time tunnel, Lu Ming said to Bubbles. Bubbles nodded and waved his hands. A space-time tunnel appeared. Lu Ming entered the space-time tunnel and appeared at the residence of Wan Tianjiao and the others. At this moment, the tremors from the sacred mountain of time had alarmed them. Many figures gathered together and looked in the direction of the sacred mountain of time in puzzlement. Lu Ming's sudden appearance beside Wan Tianjiao gave them a fright. Lu Ming, what's going on? Wan Tianjiao asked subconsciously. There's no time. I'll bring you guys away. Lu Ming took out the mountain river diagram. A ray of light enveloped Wan Tianjiao and the others and kept them in the mountain river diagram. Hurry up and run for your lives. Lu Ming roared at the others. Then, he soared into the sky and rushed out of the Divine Light Island. The others couldn't care less. They reminded them that whether they could escape with their lives depended on their luck. Those people were a little stunned. They didn't know what had happened. This person must have offended the Sacred Master and is being hunted down. It wasn't easy for us to come to the Divine Light Island. How can we leave just because of a sentence from him? The people from Mysterious Spirit Nation snorted. Lu Ming had killed so many of their experts. How could they believe Lu Ming's words? The people from the other nations also nodded. They agreed with the people from Mysterious Spirit Nation. They thought that Lu Ming must have offended the Sacred Master and was running for his life. However, in the depths of the Divine Light Island, the rumbling sounds continued and became more and more intense. Then, they saw streaks of rainbow light rushing out of the Divine Light Island at an astonishing speed. Those were all quasi-emperors from outside. Some of them had seen the opportunity and escaped to the Divine Light Island. It seems that something unusual has really happened. Some people's faces turned pale. In the next moment, miserable screams came from the depths of the Divine Light Island. Many figures soared into the sky, trying to escape. However, an invisible wave spread out. Those people's figures were fixed in the air. Then, their bodies shriveled as if they had been deprived of their time. The old ones directly decayed. The young ones also aged in an instant. Then, they decayed and turned into bones. Run! These people were finally afraid. They rushed out crazily. However, before they could fly far, the terrifying power of time swept over them. Their bodies stiffened in the air, and then they rapidly aged, turning into withered bones that fell to the ground. Even the withered bones began to decay, turning into dust. At this moment, the bubble opened the space-time tunnel again. The 2 of them rushed out of the Divine Light Island and flew into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Roar! In the Divine Light Island, a terrifying roar that was filled with anger and unwillingness rang out. Then, Lu Ming saw a beam of rainbow light dashing out of the Time Island in a panic, disappearing into the distance at lightning speed. It was a few quasi-emperors. The others who didn't escape were probably dead. Lu Ming sighed. Then, he flew into the distance and watched from afar. After that, a few more roars of unwillingness rang out from the Divine Light Island. Then, it fell silent. It seemed that the huge figure didn't escape. Chapter 1962. What is that figure in the sacred mountain of time? Why is it so terrifying? Lu Ming frowned. That huge figure gave off a terrifying feeling. Its strength was unfathomable, even more terrifying than a true emperor. Could it be suppressed here by the heavenly emperor? Lu Ming thought about it carefully and felt that it was very possible. This world was originally suppressed by the heavenly emperor mountain. It only appeared when the two great emperors fought and the mountain exploded. It was most likely a powerful existence suppressed by the heavenly emperor. Then, Lu Ming shook his head and turned into a rainbow light, leaving this place. Such a powerful existence was not something he could interfere with. There was no point in thinking too much. Lu Ming went in the direction of the 9 nations. After a few days, he brought Wan Tianjiao and the rest back to the Bright Flame Country. Tianjiao, I'm leaving. In the palace of the Bright Flame Country, Wan Tianjiao's delicate body trembled slightly, her eyes complicated. Although she knew that Lu Ming would leave sooner or later because they were not from the same world, she did not expect this day to come so soon. In the end, he's just a passerby in the Bright Flame Country. Wan Tianjiao sighed in her heart. She composed herself and asked with a smile on her face, "Where are you going?" "To the outer heavens." Lu Ming shook his head and said, "Do you know if there are other worlds besides the Infinite Seas realm?" Wan Tianjiao pondered for a moment and said, "There are legends. It is said that there are a total of 9 worlds similar to the Infinite Seas realm. They are all connected and only sacred emperors can travel between them." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He knew that Wan Tianjiao was talking about the Lotus World. The Lotus World had 9 petals and 9 worlds. "Do you know where the passageway is?" Lu Ming continued to ask. "Legend has it that in the far west of the Infinite Seas realm, there is a void passageway that leads to other world." Wan Tianjiao said. "In the far west?" Lu Ming nodded. Then, a storage ring appeared in his hand. He handed it to Wan Tianjiao and said, "Tianjiao, there are some sacred elixirs, sacred weapons, battle formations, and cultivation techniques in here. Keep them. They will be helpful to the Bright Fire Country." Wan Tianjiao looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression, then took the storage ring and said, "Lu Ming, take care. Take care, we'll meet again if fate wills it." Lu Ming cupped his fists and shot up into the sky, disappearing from Wan Tianjiao's sight. "After parting today, I don't know if we'll meet again in this life." A long sigh could be heard. Lu Ming's speed was extremely fast. Like a beam of light, he flew toward the extreme west of the Myriad Seas realm. Lu Ming flitted past the endless sea and numerous islands beneath him. With Lu Ming's current speed, if he went all out, how terrifying would that be? It was much faster than the 20x breaking sky shuttle. Several days later, the sea became more and more desolate. The islands could no longer be seen, only the endless sea. Another 2 days later, a loud rumbling sound could be heard from afar. Lu Ming discovered that the void in the distance was in chaos. It was as if a huge abyss had appeared out of nowhere in the sky, splitting the sky in half. That was the endless turbulence of the void. Lu Ming approached, and a powerful force hit him. That was the power of the void. If one's cultivation was not high enough, they would be crushed to pieces by this power of the void. But for Lu Ming, it did not affect him much. "Chirp chirp," Bubble yelled out. With a single shift of its body, it dashed into the turbulent void like a fish in water. Lu Ming smiled and stepped in as well. TSK TSK TSK, the turbulence of the void rushed toward Lu Ming from all directions, forming a terrifying cutting force. Lu Ming circulated the law of primal chaos throughout his body to resist the cutting force of the void. The law of primal chaos vibrated slightly. If an ordinary absolute saint were to come here, they would not be able to resist it after a long time, Lu Ming thought. Lu Ming and Bubble continued forward. Not long after, Lu Ming saw a huge whirlpool floating in the void. This whirlpool was like a black hole, deep, mysterious, and terrifying. Even from a distance, he could feel the terrifying tearing force of the whirlpool. Lu Ming looked serious. It seemed that the turbulence of the void was not completely free of danger. This kind of pitch-black whirlpool was very scary. If one accidentally entered, it would be very dangerous. Moreover, this whirlpool was constantly moving. Lu Ming continued forward. Every once in a while, he would find a pitch-black whirlpool. The turbulence of the void here was very long. Lu Ming and the others still had not passed through after a day. Big brother Lu Ming, Bubble is going to cultivate. Bubble seemed to have understood something and said to Lu Ming, "Go ahead." Lu Ming said. Bubble nodded and then sat cross-legged in the turbulence of the void. The power of the turbulence of the void acted on Bubble and passed through it. It was as if Bubble did not belong to this space-time. Lu Ming stood not far from Bubble, surrounded by the law of primal chaos. While Bubble was cultivating, he could also use the power of the void to refine the law of primal chaos. Time passed day by day. 7 days later, Bubble's body suddenly emitted a ray of light. The light was very faint at first, but slowly, it became more and more dazzling. This is space-time light. Lu Ming's eyes widened and then he was overjoyed. As long as one cultivated a powerful law, it was possible to cultivate a kind of law of light. For example, the stellar river had cultivated the eternal light. Lu Ming remembered the power of stellar river's eternal light very well. Eternal light not only had terrifying attack power, but also a strong defensive ability. It could be used to attack and defend, and could greatly increase one's combat power. However, it was extremely difficult to cultivate this kind of law of light. Theoretically speaking, the 10 supreme laws, as well as many other monarch laws, had a chance of cultivating the light of laws. But in reality, the number of people who could cultivate it was extremely small. The Elysian children who had comprehended the 10 strongest laws had a higher chance of cultivating eternal light, but it was not 100%. For example, Stellar River had only cultivated eternal light after reaching the peak of the Absolute Saint realm. And back then, Death Blade had not cultivated eternal light. Lu Ming also did not cultivate chaotic light. As for the monarch laws, it was even more difficult to cultivate eternal light. Only very few monarch bodies could cultivate it. Once cultivated, one's combat power would skyrocket, and he would be able to suppress the prodigies of the same level. Now that Bubble had cultivated eternal light, Lu Ming was naturally happy. Lu Ming guessed that Bubble had swallowed a fruit of the divine tree of time, and combined with the void turbulence here, it had comprehended something and cultivated eternal light. At this moment, the eternal light disappeared. Bubble had finished cultivating and jumped onto Lu Ming's shoulder. Bubble's cultivation was still at the peak of the Absolute Saint realm, but his combat power was probably stronger than before. Now, even if Lu Ming attacked with all his strength, it would be difficult for him to defeat Bubble. Chapter 1963. In the void turbulence, Lu Ming would be fine as long as he avoided the dark vortex. After moving forward for a while, Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and stopped. Many figures appeared in front of him. At first glance, there were about a dozen people, but the void turbulence blocked his vision. Lu Ming could not see the specific appearance of the other party. Obviously, the other party had also noticed him. The other party paused for a moment and continued to move forward. Soon, the figures in front of him became clear. Luo Pokong. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Among the dozen people, he saw Luo Pokong and another familiar figure, Feng Wuchen of the Feng clan. At the same time, Luo Pokong and Feng Wuchen also saw him. Luo Pokong was stunned at first. His opponent's eyes lit up and emitted a cold murderous intent. He shouted, "Lu Ming, it's you. Don't let him go. Surround him." Whoosh, whoosh. Beside Luo Pokong and Feng Wuchen, figures flashed and surrounded Lu Ming. Powerful auras locked onto Lu Ming. Quasi-emperors were all experts of the quasi-emperor realm. Obviously, those who could step into the void turbulence were quasi-emperors, unless they had emperor weapons like Luo Pokong and Feng Wuchen. These were obviously the quasi-emperors of the De Luo Heaven sect and the Feng clan. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, I didn't expect to meet you here. This void turbulence will be your burial place. Luo Pokong laughed wildly. He had been defeated by Lu Ming several times. He wished he could kill Lu Ming. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying and there were too many geniuses around him. Back then, even Luo Tsungqiong was defeated by Lu Ming. Even Xinghe could not kill Lu Ming. In the Yuan Mountain Saint Academy, he had no chance at all. But here, beside him and Feng Wuchen, there were more than a dozen quasi-emperors. Lu Ming was doomed. Lu Ming frowned. Even if he and Bubbles joined forces, they might not be able to win against more than a dozen quasi-emperors. Kill. Lu Ming suddenly moved, striking first to gain the upper hand. Together with Bubble, he rushed to the right. Bubble waved her hand, and two transparent bubbles enveloped the two quasi-emperors in front. Then, Lu Ming jabbed out two fingers, and the primal chaos tribulation finger exploded, bombarding the two quasi-emperors. Although the two boundary emperors tried their best to block, they were still severely injured. Their bodies flew out like cannonballs, and their bodies almost exploded. The two quasi-emperors were sent flying, and a hole appeared in the encirclement. Lu Ming continued to move forward. But at this time, a figure caught up to Lu Ming at an extremely fast speed. His iron fist was like a mountain as it smashed towards Lu Ming. The iron fist punched out and the turbulent void was dispersed, revealing a vacuum passageway. Lu Ming's expression changed. What a terrifying punch. Hell-suppressing heaven skill. At the critical moment, Lu Ming circulated the suppressing hell heavenly art and punched out. Boom. The two fists collided, and Lu Ming felt an extremely terrifying force surging towards him. Lu Ming felt his arm go numb, and he couldn't help but retreat. This person is very strong. Looking at the middle-aged man in front of him, Lu Ming's heart sank slightly. This man's combat strength was extremely shocking, far surpassing that of other quasi-emperors. This person's spiritual body is extraordinary. It's a superior heaven spiritual body. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Of course, there were strong and weak quasi-emperors. Generally, Lu Ming was not afraid of those who broke through to the quasi-emperor realm with an earth spiritual body. He could even defeat and kill them. However, if one broke through to the quasi-emperor realm with a heaven spiritual body, their combat strength would undoubtedly be much stronger. And this man in front of him had broken through to the quasi-emperor realm with a superior heaven spiritual body. Such a person was already a top genius when he was young. He was only slightly weaker than a king body, and his combat strength was extremely shocking. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he was no match for him. Boom. This man stepped out again and charged towards Lu Ming. Chirp chirp. Bubble waved his hands and endless void turbulence surged towards this person. However, this person's combat strength was indeed shocking. His fists constantly punched out, and his iron fists were like mountains, breaking the void turbulence one by one. Bubble, don't fight this person head-on. Go from the other side. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubble. The two of them moved and rushed to the other side. At this time, the other quasi-emperors also attacked Lu Ming and the others. More than a dozen terrifying super skills drove the void turbulence and flooded towards Lu Ming and the others. The light of space-time appeared on Bubble's body. He waved his hands and the space-time turbulence rolled back and blasted towards the opponents. Lu Ming's figure moved and rushed towards a quasi-emperor. With a press of his hands, 9 prison-suppressing steelies appeared and suppressed this person. This person roared and tried his best to resist, but he was still forced to retreat. Then, endless runes appeared on Lu Ming's left hand and used the power of sealing to seal this person. Meanwhile, his right hand pointed out with all his strength. A chaotic tribulation finger blasted towards this person. Kill. At this time, the others, including the quasi-emperor with the superior heavenly spiritual body, also attacked Lu Ming and the others. Big brother Lu Ming, leave it to me. Chirp chirp. Bubble charged out, and her small mouth pouted continuously. 10-odd transparent bubbles appeared and encased the 10-odd quasi-emperors in them. The quasi-emperors froze at the same time and burst out with power to attack the transparent bubbles. And that burly man's combat strength was indeed shocking. He blasted out a few punches in succession and shattered the transparent bubbles. However, this delay had given Lu Ming enough time. That quasi-emperor was sealed by Lu Ming's sealing power. Then, the chaotic tribulation finger descended and this quasi-emperor screamed miserably as half of his body exploded. Swish. However, Lu Ming did not give him any chance to react. The taiji disc flew out from his forehead and two yin-yang fish swords shot out and slashed down, killing this person. Damn it, a bunch of trash. Luo Pokong roared in the distance. 10-odd quasi-emperors besieged Lu Ming and the other quasi-emperors. To think that one of them was killed by Lu Ming. This was a disgrace. Use the emperor weapon to block this little girl. Leave Lu Ming to me, that burly middle-aged man roared. I'll do it. A quasi-emperor of the wind race waved his hand, and a small pagoda appeared. Then, it rapidly enlarged like a mountain. Boundless strong winds howled as it enveloped Bubble like a cage. At the same time, that burly middle-aged man charged at Lu Ming with all his strength. His punches were horrifying. Every punch made the void tremble violently. Lu Ming jabbed out a few times in succession. However, after the chaotic tribulation finger clashed with the other party, it crumbled. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage. On the other side, Bubble dodged left and right, dodging that huge pagoda. However, the other party had too many quasi-emperors. 10-odd quasi-emperors locked onto all directions and continuously attacked. They used a barbaric and direct method to block Bubble's retreat. There were even 2 quasi-emperors who took out their emperor weapons to block Bubble's retreat. For a time, Bubble was trapped and could not help Lu Ming. Buzz. Lu Ming controlled the taiji disc to suppress the burly middle-aged man. At the same time, the Great Pill Derivation Furnace appeared and rapidly enlarged, smashing towards the other party. I also have an emperor weapon. Chapter 1964. Clang. The Taikai array disc was sent flying back. Then, the giant hammer landed on the Great Pill Development Cauldron. The cauldron trembled and was sent flying back. Men, help me kill Lu Ming, the middle-aged man shouted. 2 quasi-emperors charged towards Lu Ming to help him. With the help of 2 quasi-emperors, the middle-aged man became even more unscrupulous. The giant hammer was the size of a house as it smashed towards Lu Ming. Dong. Dong. Lu Ming blocked the attack with the Great Pill Development Cauldron, but the cauldron kept retreating. Whoosh whoosh, at this moment, a terrifying whistling sound came from behind Lu Ming. A huge black vortex was slowly moving towards him. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, you're dead meat. The middle-aged man was ecstatic. Even the heavens wanted Lu Ming dead. At this moment, a black vortex moved towards Lu Ming, leaving him with no way to retreat. Chirp chirp, Bubble cried out, wanting to help. However, there were 3 emperor weapons blocking off the 3 directions. The other quasi-emperors continued to attack. Although Bubble's spacetime laws were profound, the other party's barbaric method of disrupting the void made it difficult for Bubble to help. Bubble could only protect itself. At this moment, a pair of cold eyes were staring at Lu Ming from behind the black vortex. This person was Luo Tsungcheong. In fact, Luo Tsungcheong was with Luo Pokong and the others. It was just that he was cultivating alone in the void earlier, so Lu Ming did not notice him. He heard the commotion and rushed over, but he did not expect to see Lu Ming. He hid behind the black vortex and used the law of deprivation to form the divine seal of deprivation, constantly depriving the void of energy. The more time passed, the more energy was deprived, and the stronger the power of the divine seal of deprivation would be. By now, the divine seal of deprivation had already deprived a huge amount of energy, and its power had reached a terrifying level. Even Luo Tsungcheong was shocked. Lu Ming, I'll send you to hell with this move. Luo Tsungcheong's eyes flashed ferociously. When he saw Lu Ming being suppressed by the middle-aged man and the 2 quasi-emperors, an opening appeared. Without hesitation, Luo Tsungcheong's figure flickered and the divine seal of deprivation flew towards Lu Ming to suppress him. Luo Tsungcheong. Lu Ming was shocked. The power of the divine seal of deprivation was too shocking. Even the middle-aged man's attack. At this moment, Lu Ming was trying his best to resist the attacks of the middle-aged burly man and the other two quasi-emperors. He did not expect that Luo Tsungqiong would suddenly appear behind the vortex. It was too late to dodge. Qiu Yu had first entered the Yellowstone world. After exploring a few ruins in this world, she also came to the border of the Yellowstone world. She entered the chaotic streams of space, wanting to explore another world. She cultivated and walked in the void turbulence. After walking for a few days, she suddenly heard a violent roar in front of her. Autumn Moon withdrew her aura and walked forward. She saw Lu Ming fighting with someone. Just as she was about to help, she saw Luo Tsungqiong suddenly attack Lu Ming. At this moment, Qiu Yu did not hesitate and pounced forward. "Young master, be careful." A clear and crisp voice rang in Lu Ming's ears. Then, he saw a white figure dashing from one side toward the divine seal of deprivation at high speed. Autumn Moon, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then, he heard a loud roar. Autumn Moon's body flew towards Lu Ming. Blood was red in the air, like a beautiful blood-colored rose. Autumn Moon. At this moment, Lu Ming hollered. His eyes were red. Luo Tsungqiong's move was too powerful. Lu Ming knew very well that Autumn Moon would not be able to block it. Lu Ming roared and controlled the great defying cauldron with all his strength to block the attacks of the middle-aged man and the two quasi-emperors. He then moved and caught Autumn Moon's body. At this moment, Autumn Moon's face was pale. Blood kept flowing out of her mouth and her aura was extremely weak. She was like a weak candle that would be extinguished at any time. "Autumn Moon, it's you. How is it possible?" Luo Tsungqiong roared in disbelief. Why would Qiu Yu suddenly appear and block his sure-kill move? He was stunned for a moment and forgot to attack. The middle-aged man also knew that Luo Tsungqiong had been chasing after Autumn Moon. Seeing this scene, he could not help but stop. "Autumn Moon, why are you so stupid? Why did you block it for me?" Lu Ming hugged Autumn Moon and his heart was trembling. With his cultivation and physical strength, even if he took a hit, he would at most be seriously injured and might not die. However, it was different for Autumn Moon. Young master, I said that I will always be by your side," Autumn Moon spoke, but her voice was weak. Her aura was also getting weaker. Lu Ming held Autumn Moon's hand and poured his saint power into Autumn Moon's body to protect Autumn Moon's heart. But it was useless. Autumn Moon's aura was getting weaker and her eyes slowly closed. "Lu Ming, leave Autumn Moon to me. Even if she dies, she is still mine," Luo Tsungqiong said coldly. Luo Tsungqiong. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at Luo Tsungqiong. His eyes were bloodshot and his body was filled with cold killing intent. He was like a demon from hell. "I will definitely kill you and the Luo Heaven sect. Sooner or later, I will flatten it." Lu Ming's cold and ruthless voice came out from his mouth. Being stared at by Lu Ming's cold eyes, Luo Tsungqiong felt a chill down his spine. He shouted, "If you still want to kill me, I will let you all die here today and become a pair of lovebird." Boom. A terrifying aura burst out from Luo Tsungqiong's body and an imperial weapon emerged. Luo Tsungqiong was the grandson of the Great Emperor. The imperial weapon that he carried was given by the Great Emperor and was extremely terrifying. "Let's attack together and kill them," Luo Tsungqiong roared. The imperial weapon carried a terrifying aura and blasted toward Lu Ming. At the same time, the middle-aged man also attacked. The giant hammer broke through the air and charged toward Lu Ming. "Luo Tsungqiong, I will definitely kill you in the future," Lu Ming said coldly. With a thought, the great elixir development furnace did not protect him. Instead, it blasted toward Bubbles. As for himself, he took the Autumn Moon into the mountain river diagram. At the same time, Lu Ming used the Tai Chi formation plate and the chaotic stone to block in front of him. He quickly retreated and rushed toward the black vortex. Boom! Boom! The Tai Chi formation plate was blasted back by the middle-aged man. As for the chaotic stone, it was hit by Luo Tsungqiong's imperial weapon and flew toward Lu Ming. The terrifying power increased Lu Ming's speed. Lu Ming flew directly into the black vortex. All of a sudden, an extremely powerful force acted on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's figure disappeared into the vortex and disappeared. On the other side, the great elixir development furnace smashed down and blasted away the imperial weapon that was surrounding Bubbles. Bubbles moved and rushed out of the encirclement in an instant. He also rushed into the black vortex. Stop that elixir furnace. Chapter 1965. Damn it. Luo Tsungcheong roared, his killing intent chilling. Humph, Lu Ming is dead for sure after entering this black vortex. Luo Pokong stepped into the air and sneered. That's right, he's dead for sure. The other quasi-emperors smiled as well. There was a terrifying destructive force in this black vortex that frightened them. Lu Ming would definitely die if he entered. Not necessarily. Luo Tsungcheong's face was cold as he said, Lu Ming is very terrifying and unpredictable. Moreover, there's someone who knows the law of space with him, so he might not die. These words shook the hearts of the others. Indeed, Lu Ming was very terrifying, and there was someone who knew the law of space. Even if he entered the black vortex, he might not be in danger. In that case, it was Lu Ming who entered on his own accord. Everyone's face turned ugly, but they were not confident that they would chase after him. After all, it was dangerous and unpredictable. Humph, Lu Ming, even if he doesn't die, I'll kill him sooner or later. Luo Tsungcheong snorted. They did not leave but stayed to guard the place to prevent Lu Ming from coming out. Their guess was right, Lu Ming did enter the black vortex on his own accord. It was not that he did not dare to fight, as he still had a trump card if he fought with his life on the line. However, he was worried about Qiu Yu's safety. Qiu Yu's injuries were too serious, and she needed to be treated quickly, or she would be in danger. As soon as Lu Ming entered the black vortex, a terrifying destructive force surged toward him from all directions. Lu Ming activated his saint power and at the same time, he controlled the law of chaos to cover his body to resist. Sizzle, the cutting force constantly hit Lu Ming's body, causing the law of chaos to tremble as if it was about to collapse. This cutting force is really amazing. Lu Ming activated the law of chaos with all his might to resist. At the same time, a void storm in the black vortex pushed Lu Ming into the distance aimlessly. Whoosh! Not long after, with a flash of light, Bubble appeared beside Lu Ming. Bubble was in control of space-time and had cultivated the space-time light. The void storm couldn't do anything to her. The bubble appeared beside Lu Ming and set up the laws of space and time around the two of them, blocking the void storm outside. Whoosh! In the next moment, the great pill derivation furnace also flew over and was put away by Lu Ming. Autumn moon. Lu Ming was thinking about the autumn moon. With a thought, the autumn moon came out of the mountain river diagram. At this moment, Qiu Autumn Moon was unconscious and his breathing was weak. Luo Tsungcheong's attack had been too powerful. He had hidden to the side and used the law of deprivation to absorb the energy of the outside world, accumulating a terrifying amount of power. He had originally planned to kill Lu Ming in one fell swoop. In her haste, Autumn Moon only wanted to block that attack for Lu Ming, but her injuries were too severe. Damn it! Lu Ming gritted his teeth, wishing he could turn Luo Tsungcheong into ashes. Autumn Moon, I will not let anything happen to you, Lu Ming whispered and took out a healing elixir. He melted the elixir with his saint power and melted it into Autumn Moon's body. However, Autumn Moon's injuries still did not improve. Brother Lu Ming, try the fruit of the divine tree of time. Bubble opened her mouth and the divine tree of time appeared. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The divine tree of time originally had 2 milky white fruits. Bubble had swallowed one and there was still one left. Since the divine tree of time could double a martial artist's lifespan, increasing one's lifespan was actually increasing one's vitality. This meant that the fruit of the divine tree of time contained a powerful vitality. This fruit might be able to save Autumn Moon. Lu Ming plucked the fruit and used his saint power to refine it into Autumn Moon's body. Sure enough, the fruit of the divine tree of time contained infinite vitality and seeped into Autumn Moon's limbs and bones. The surface injuries on Autumn Moon's body were quickly recovering, and Autumn Moon's aura also stabilized. However, she did not wake up. Brother Lu Ming, it seems that Sister Autumn Moon's injuries are too severe. Just the fruit of the divine tree of time alone can't wake her up, Bubble said after looking at Autumn Moon carefully. Lu Ming circulated his saint power and circulated it through Autumn Moon's body. After a while, he sighed. Although Autumn Moon's vitality had stabilized, it was indeed easier said than done to wake her up as Bubble had said. Lu Ming caressed Autumn Moon's face and wiped away the bloodstains on the corner of Autumn Moon's mouth. He said softly, Autumn Moon, no matter what, I won't let anything happen to you. I won't let Luo Tsungcheong and Deluo Heaven sect off. Toward the end, Lu Ming's voice turned cold and there was a burst of cold murderous intent. This time, it was too dangerous. Fortunately, there was the fruit of the divine tree of time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unpredictable. If something happened to Autumn Moon, Lu Ming would never be at ease for the rest of his life. Autumn Moon was still the same as before. She didn't talk much and didn't ask for much. She just silently guarded Lu Ming and was willing to give up everything for Lu Ming, including her life. Lu Ming held Autumn Moon's little hand and recalled the scenes of their childhood in the sea. After a long time, Lu Ming sent Autumn Moon back into the mountain river diagram and placed her under the tree of enlightenment, hoping that it would help Autumn Moon. At this time, Lu Ming looked around. They were still in the chaotic void storm. Bubble shrouded the surroundings with the law of time and space and broke through the void storm. Bubble, how should we get out? Lu Ming asked. In terms of space, Bubble was naturally better. Brother Lu Ming, with my current cultivation, I can't break through the space by force. I need to wait. I need to find a weak point in the space and then rush out in one fell swoop. Bubble explained. Okay. Lu Ming nodded. They continued to wait while observing the surroundings, looking for an opportunity. As time passed, Bubble's power became weaker and weaker. If this continued, when Bubble's power was exhausted, they would also be in danger. I don't know where we are floating to, Lu Ming pondered. It was very dangerous to float in the void like this. It would be fine if they floated to other worlds, but if they floated to the eternal void, they would die if they didn't have the cultivation of a martial emperor. Brother Lu Ming, I've got it. Look there. Bubble suddenly pointed to the right. Lu Ming looked over and saw some fluctuations in the void there. Let's attack with all our strength and break out, chirp chirp. Bubble shouted. She controlled the law of time and space and changed direction, flying toward the place where the fluctuations were coming from. Primal Chaos Calamity Finger. Lu Ming used all his strength and pointed with a finger. Now, Lu Ming's Primal Chaos Calamity Finger had reached 94%. When he pointed with all his strength, the power was very shocking. At the same time, Bubble also cooperated with Lu Ming to attack the void. Boom! The void shook violently. Then, with a hiss, a crack appeared. Lu Ming was overjoyed and rushed over with Bubble. After rushing through the crack, Lu Ming found that he had appeared in a cave. Roar! A loud roar came from behind Lu Ming. A fishy smell assailed his nostrils. There was also a blazing aura. Chapter 1966. Lu Ming looked around and found a fiery red giant lizard behind him. It was staring at Lu Ming with its eyes wide open. In front of him was the middle-aged man who was also looking at Lu Ming in surprise. The man and the giant lizard both emitted powerful auras. They were both quasi-emperors. Lu Ming understood from the traces at the scene. The fight between the middle-aged man and the giant lizard must have caused spatial fluctuations and weakened the space. They just happened to notice it and attacked with all their strength. With their cooperation, they broke through the space and appeared here. Roar! At this moment, the giant lizard roared, treating Lu Ming as the middle-aged man's ally. It took a step forward and its body emitted blazing flames. It spat out a fireball from its mouth and blasted it at Lu Ming. Lu Ming punched out and a phantom of the prison-suppressing monument appeared and destroyed the giant lizard's fireball. Bang! Bang! The giant lizard stomped on the ground and the cave rumbled as it pounced at Lu Ming. Its sharp claws pierced through the air like divine knives. At the same time, it bit at Lu Ming with its big fangs. You're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. He was already full of anger and the giant lizard attacked him as soon as it appeared. This made Lu Ming even angrier. Boom! Boom! His saint energy surged as Lu Ming punched out a few times and collided with the giant lizard. Although this giant lizard had the combat strength of a quasi-emperor, it was still no match for Lu Ming in a head-on collision and was forced to retreat by Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming leaped high into the air and landed a punch on the head of the giant lizard. The giant lizard fell to the ground with a loud thud. Roar! The giant lizard's head hit the ground and let out a loud roar. Its scaly tail was like an iron whip and lashed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed the tail of the giant lizard and swung it up, throwing it out of the cave. Swoosh! The giant lizard was thrown out of the cave by Lu Ming. Roar! It was at this moment that a terrifying roar came from outside the cave. This roar didn't come from the lizard, but rather, it seemed to come from below the cave. The roar was so powerful that it caused Lu Ming's eardrums to vibrate. It was as if there was a supreme demon there. Then, Lu Ming saw the giant lizard let out a terrified roar. Its body quickly fell down, as if attracted by some force. Roar! Roar! Following that, the roar continued to shake heaven and earth. Terrifying sound waves reverberated throughout the area. The middle-aged man's face was grave as he pulled away from Lu Ming, not daring to step out. "Senior, what's that outside?" Lu Ming asked. "I don't know." The middle-aged man shook his head. "Then where is this?" Lu Ming asked again. "Myriad Beast Realm," the middle-aged man said. He then sized up Lu Ming and said, "You should be the son of chaos from Yuanshan Holy Courtyard, right?" "Oh." These words made Lu Ming's eyes light up. It seemed that this should be one of the 9 worlds of the Lotus World. They hadn't left too far away. At this time, the roar outside stopped. Just as Lu Ming was about to ask again, the middle-aged man rushed out of the cave and disappeared. Lu Ming was speechless. He followed him to the entrance of the cave and looked outside. His eyes couldn't help but widen. The scene outside was extremely magnificent. The place he was in was like the crater of a volcano, or a huge cave that led to the underground. And his position was on one side of the wall of the cave. Looking around, the walls of the cave were densely packed with caves. And in the middle of the cave, there were stone bridges that connected to each other. The cave kept going down. He didn't know how deep it was. It was pitch black below. The roar just now had come from below. Lu Ming saw the middle-aged burly man leaping onto a stone bridge and dashing into a cave diagonally opposite, disappearing from sight. Lu Ming looked again and found that there were indeed figures flashing in some of the caves. Could this place be a relic of the Myriad Beast Realm, and many outsiders are exploring here? Lu Ming thought. He saw figures flashing out of some of the caves. They seemed to be very cautious. They landed on those stone bridges and waited carefully for a while. Then, they jumped onto a stone bridge below. Just like that, they continued to go down and explore the caves below. Roar. At this moment, another shocking roar sounded from the depths of the cave. Accompanied by the roar, a terrifying suction force came from the depths of the cave as if it was going to devour everything. Ah! A horrified scream sounded. Lu Ming saw a Saint Realm powerhouse. He happened to be in the air and didn't land on the stone bridge. He was directly swallowed by the force and disappeared into the endless abyss. Lu Ming gasped. What was down there? Even a Saint Realm powerhouse couldn't resist it. It was the same for the giant lizard from before. It was also swallowed by that force. However, Lu Ming found that those who landed on the stone bridge were fine. It seemed that the stone bridge could resist that force. No wonder those people were so careful when they jumped on the stone bridge. This place is full of danger, Lu Ming muttered. He looked around and found that there was no other exit in this cave. If he wanted to go out, he could only go through the cave in front of him. Let's rest here for now. Bubble, you should recover first, Lu Ming said to Bubble. Bubble had used the space-time laws to resist the void storm and had consumed a lot of energy. It was a good opportunity to recover and rest here. Okay, big brother Lu Ming. Chirp chirp. Bubble nodded and took out a large number of origin stones and sacred herbs to recover. Lu Ming also sat down cross-legged and swallowed origin stones to recover. Not long after, Lu Ming's condition was restored to its peak. At this moment, Lu Ming's heart moved and the Chaos Stone appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Previously, Lu Ming had used the Chaos Stone to block the attack of Luo Tsungqiang's Emperor weapon. At that time, Lu Ming had heard a faint sound. It seemed to be the sound of the Chaos Stone cracking. Lu Ming took it out and looked at it. Indeed, there was a crack on the Chaos Stone. The Chaos Stone is indestructible, but it cracked. Luo Tsungqiang's Emperor weapon is really powerful, Lu Ming thought. Then, he thought that since the Chaos Stone had cracked, he might as well break it open to take a look. Immediately, Lu Ming used all the strength in his body to grab the Chaos Stone and break it open. Crack! The Chaos Stone cracked even louder and the crack became even bigger. I can break it open. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. If not for the crack on the Chaos Stone, it would not have been possible to break it open. Lu Ming continued to use force. A moment later, the Chaos Stone was completely broken into two. Ding! Ding! Among the Chaos Stones, two small crystals fell to the ground. These are Chaos Crystals. Chapter 1967. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised when he opened the Chaos Gem and two Chaos Crystals fell out. This was because Chaos Crystals were formed by the condensation of Chaos Chi. Back when this Chaos Gem was auctioned, the auctioneer said that there was no Chaos Chi in it, which was why the price was so low. However, no one expected that it was not that there was no Chaos Chi in the Chaos Gem, but that all the Chaos Chi had condensed into Chaos Crystals. Chaos Crystals were almost fused with the Chaos Gem. Therefore, if one did not break open the Chaos Gem, it would be impossible to discover them. He had made a killing, a huge killing. Lu Ming checked carefully and confirmed that there were only two Chaos Crystals in the Chaos Gem. Lu Ming immediately controlled the primal Chaos Law to envelop the two Chaos Crystals. Buzz! Buzz! When the primal Chaos Law enveloped the Chaos Crystals, the two Chaos Crystals trembled slightly and floated in the air along with the primal Chaos Law. Following that, the two Chaos Crystals melted like ice and turned into liquid. Finally, they turned into two streams of air. Chaos Chi! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Back then, he had refined a stream of Chaos Chi into his body. Naturally, he could tell at a glance that these two streams of air were also Chaos Chi. Then I'll refine two more. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. With a thought, he controlled the primal Chaos Law and guided the Chaos Chi into his body. Lu Ming's body had already refined a stream of Chaos Chi. It was very compatible with the Chaos Chi and there was no difficulty in refining it. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Bubbles had long recovered and stayed at the cave entrance to protect Lu Ming. Over the past few days, terrifying roars could be heard from the depths of the cave from time to time. It was even accompanied by the sound of metal chains colliding. It was as though a supreme great demon was chained below and was struggling to break free. Lu Ming turned a deaf ear to all of this. He focused on refining the Chaos Chi. In 3 days, the two streams of Chaos Chi had been completely refined into Lu Ming's body. They seeped into his muscles, bones, blood, and permeated every inch of his body. The toughness of Lu Ming's physical body had been greatly enhanced. It was much more powerful. His body seemed to have a layer of hazy light. With a thought, he became as heavy as a mountain, indestructible and indestructible. Wang. At that moment, his body seemed to resonate with the law of primal chaos. When a martial artist reached the 3rd stage of the half-saint realm, he would be able to form a vessel of laws. The laws would be highly compatible with his body, and his body would contain the laws, causing the strength of his physical body to skyrocket. At that moment, the law of primal chaos was constantly pouring into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body was numb, as though a terrifying power was about to be born. Wang. Not long after, a halo of light emerged from Lu Ming's body. Light of chaos, chirp chirp. At the side, Bubble blinked her big eyes and revealed a happy expression. Lu Ming had refined 2 more strands of chaotic energy. Adding on the previous strand of chaotic energy, He now had a total of 3 strands of chaotic energy. His spirit body had been greatly strengthened, and he had also taken advantage of this opportunity to resonate with the laws of primal chaos, allowing him to refine chaotic light. The light of primal chaos was faint at first, but as time passed, the color of the light of primal chaos became darker and darker. In the end, it turned into a beam of light that surrounded Lu Ming's body. After a while, Lu Ming opened his eyes and retracted the light of primal chaos into his body. The strength of my body has increased by another level. Lu Ming sensed it carefully and his eyes flashed. He had not expected that the stone of primal chaos that he had bought unintentionally would allow him to refine the light of primal chaos. What a great opportunity! If not for the 2 strands of chaotic energy, he did not know when he would be able to refine the light of primal chaos. This time, although his cultivation base did not increase, his battle prowess had increased tremendously. Roar! Roar! At that moment, a terrifying roar resounded outside the cave. Gusts of wind whistled out from the depths of the cave. Clang, clang, clang. At the same time, the sound of metal chains colliding could be heard. Lu Ming's face froze. He could not help but think of the Time Island. On the Time Island, a huge living being was sealed and chained. It was extremely powerful and unfathomable. The sound of metal chains could also be heard here. Could it be that there was a supreme expert sealed under the cave like the Time Island? The roar lasted for a while before it stopped. Lu Ming and Bubbles walked to the entrance of the cave and looked out. They saw figures leaping out of the cave and onto the stone bridges. With the help of the stone bridges, they went down. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, there was a roar from the bottom of the cave. At the same time, a dazzling light burst out and shot up into the sky. Below the cave, there were people fighting. Lu Ming could not help but circulate his saint power to his eyes. Suddenly, his vision was greatly enhanced and he looked down into the cave. This way, the scenery below the cave suddenly became clear. Below the cave, there was a huge platform. In the middle of the platform, there was a palace. Around the platform, there were 4 stone bridges that connected to the walls of the cave. At that moment, there was a group of people fighting on the platform. Huang Ling, Long Chen. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Then, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. At that moment, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and a few elders, who were boundary emperors of the Phoenix Palace and the Divine Elephant sect, were surrounded by a group of people. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that this group of people was from the Hung family. This was because they used the Eternal Spring Law. At that moment, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others were in danger. They were surrounded by the other party. The other party had more people, and they were all boundary emperors. There were as many as 6 of them. On the other hand, Huang Ling and the others only had 3 boundary emperors. Huang Ling and Long Chen's combat strength was still inferior to boundary emperors. Let's kill these 3 old guys first and leave the 2 young ones behind. These 2 people have a close relationship with Lu Ming. Leave them behind and let Lu Ming exchange the sword of the Celestial the Arch for them, one of the people from the Hung family said coldly. Their attacks were even more violent. They attacked the 3 boundary emperors of the Phoenix Palace and the Divine Elephant sect. As for Huang Ling and Long Chen, they only needed to hold them back. Poof! A burly elder from the Divine Elephant sect had his dantian pierced by the sword of a boundary emperor from the Hung family. The elder roared angrily and fought back with all his might. He threw a palm strike at the other party. However, the other party quickly retreated after being stabbed. The burly elder from the Divine Elephant sect had only lightly injured him before he died. Long Chen, you must charge out. The burly elder from the Divine Elephant sect roared angrily. His body fell heavily to the ground and he stopped breathing. Damn it! Long Chen roared angrily. His eyes were bloodshot. Haha, I want to charge out. Dream on. A boundary emperor from the Hung family laughed coldly. He strode forward and a terrifying attack enveloped Huang Ling. He wanted to take her down in one fell swoop. At that moment, a transparent bubble suddenly appeared and enveloped him. His body suddenly stiffened. Then, a prison-suppressing stele fell from the sky and slammed into his body. Chapter 1968. A hell-suppressing steely image descended from the sky and tore a quasi-emperor of the Hung clan into pieces. Then, a young man landed in front of Huang Ling and Long Chen. Of course, this figure was Lu Ming. When Lu Ming saw Huang Ling and Long Chen being surrounded by the quasi-emperors of the Hung clan, he used the stone bridge to rush over. Lu Ming. Huang Ling and Long Chen rejoiced when they saw Lu Ming. It's Lu Ming. The quasi-emperors of the Hung clan changed their expressions. Hung clan, kill, Lu Ming shouted, his killing intent surging out like the tide. Haha. You want to kill us? Lu Ming, you came at the right time. We can finish you off and take back the Heavenly Emperor's sword. That's right. You can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search only to find it by chance. The quasi-emperors of the Hung clan revealed cold smiles and joy. This time, the Hung clan had two missions in the Lotus Flower world. The first was to explore the remnants left behind by the Heavenly Emperor. The second was to kill Lu Ming and take back the Heavenly Emperor's sword. They originally wanted to find Lu Ming. Unexpectedly, Lu Ming delivered himself to their doorstep. Lu Ming, you have to be careful. They have a very strong person. Let's charge out together. Huang Ling sent a voice projection to Lu Ming. Very strong. I want to give it a try. The sharpness in Lu Ming's eyes intensified. He had just refined 2 strands of primal chaos chi and refined the primal chaos light. His strength had increased greatly and he wanted to see how strong he was. You guys keep an eye on that little girl who controls the spacetime laws. Leave Lu Ming to me. A burly quasi-emperor of the Hung clan stepped forward towards Lu Ming. Another quasi-emperor of the Hung clan locked his aura on Bubble, lest Bubble lend a hand. Boom. The burly quasi-emperor of the Hung clan punched at Lu Ming. The instant he punched, the river of laws wrapped around his fist, making the might of this punch even more astonishing. If this punch struck anyone below quasi-emperor, they would be crushed to bits. However, Lu Ming was no ordinary cultivator. Boom. Lu Ming also punched out, using the hell-suppressing heaven art. This punch didn't have the image of the hell-suppressing steely. Instead, it contained the power of the hell-suppressing steely in his fist. Boom. Lu Ming's fist collided with his opponent's. Catcher. Then, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. The fist of the Hung clan's burly quasi-emperor directly exploded. His entire person was pushed back by a horrifying force. How can he be so strong? The burly quasi-emperor of the Hung clan roared in disbelief. In that punch just now, he felt that Lu Ming's fist was filled with terrifying power. It was simply invincible. Die. Lu Ming took a step forward and chased after that person. He threw out another punch. This punch caused the space to tremble. The expression of the Hung clan's burly quasi-emperor changed dramatically as he frantically retreated. Let me. Among the quasi-emperors of the Hung clan, a skinny middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ming and punched out, exchanging blows with Lu Ming. Boom. There was a horrifying vibration. Both Lu Ming and his opponent's body shook at the same time as they retreated a few steps. A quasi-emperor with a superior heavenly spiritual body? Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a strong fighting spirit. Previously, when he met the people of the Deluo Heaven sect and the Foam clan in the Void Turbulence, one of them was a quasi-emperor with a superior heavenly spiritual body. He was so powerful that Lu Ming was completely suppressed. This skinny middle-aged man was also such a person. His combat strength far surpassed that of an ordinary quasi-emperor. You have some strength. Come again. The skinny quasi-emperor was called Hung She. When he was young, he was also a genius of the Hung clan. At this moment, he stepped forward and a battle sword appeared in his hand. The sword chi was like a rainbow as it slashed toward Lu Ming. This was an emperor weapon. Lu Ming's glabella shone and the Great Elixir Evolution Furnace flew out. Lu Ming grabbed one of the legs of the Great Elixir Evolution Furnace and swung it toward his opponent. Boom. Boom. There were a few consecutive explosions as the two collided. It was difficult to determine the winner. This shocked the quasi-emperors of the Hung clan and the Phoenix Palace. Lu Ming's cultivation was only in the Great Sacred Realm. His combat strength was too shocking. He was actually able to fight a quasi-emperor with a superior heavenly spiritual body. Heng She was also shocked in his heart. Kill. He roared and circulated his strength to the extreme. His battle sword was like a rainbow as it slashed toward Lu Ming. Thousands of sword chi tore through the air to kill. Buzz. At this moment, a ray of light spread out from Lu Ming's body. As soon as the ray of light appeared, Lu Ming's strength increased greatly. The Great Elixir Evolution Furnace was like a giant hammer that constantly smashed toward his opponent. Boom. Boom. After 2 consecutive moves, Heng She's body shook and he took a few steps back. Light of Chaos. Heng She roared. Once a son of chaos refined the light of chaos, his combat strength would increase greatly. In the past, among the sons of chaos in the Yuan Mountain, only Heng Xinghe had refined the light of law. Now, Lu Ming had also refined it. Lu Ming swung the great amplification cauldron. His attacks were extremely violent as he continuously bombarded the other party. In the process of attacking, Lu Ming suddenly pointed out a chaos calamity finger. Boom. Heng She was pushed back by the chaos calamity finger and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Retreat. Heng She suddenly let out a loud roar and retreated. He already knew that he was no match for Lu Ming. If they continued to fight, they would be in danger. Bubbles, attack. Attack together. Lu Ming shouted. Beep beep. Bubble pouted and spat out transparent bubbles that enveloped the 5 quasi-emperors of the Heng clan. Boom. Lu Ming raised the Great Elixir Evolution Furnace and smashed it toward one of the quasi-emperors. Lu Ming's strength had an overwhelming advantage against ordinary quasi-emperors, not to mention that he had Bubbles' help. Without any suspense, that quasi-emperor was killed by Lu Ming in one move. At the same time, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the 2 quasi-emperors of the Phoenix Palace attacked the 2 quasi-emperors of the Heng clan and injured them. Boom. Lu Ming raised the Great Elixir Evolution Furnace and smashed it again, killing another quasi-emperor. Since Lu Ming's arrival, 3 out of the 6 quasi-emperors of the Heng clan had been killed. There were only 3 left. One of them was Heng She, and the other 2 were injured by Huang Ling Bang. At this moment, Heng She unleashed his full strength and pierced through the transparent bubbles. He did not dare to stay any longer. He took a step forward and his figure soared into the sky and rushed to a stone bridge above. Trying to escape. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and he was about to give chase. Roar. Another terrifying roar came from below the cave. A terrifying suction force erupted from below, causing Lu Ming's expression to change and he stopped chasing. Heng She rejoiced. The heavens were helping him. When the roar stopped, Heng She continued to rush up at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, he crossed several stone bridges and turned into a beam of light, flying out of the cave. Lu Ming, let us go. A loud roar came. The Heng clan still had 2 quasi-emperors left. At this moment, they were trapped by Bubble's spacetime laws. One of them shouted, "Let you go. Why are you so naive?" Even Lu Ming was slightly stunned. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,